from attempting to interfere in our elections. We've spent a lot of the last few years building systems that are more sophisticated than any other company has at this point, and frankly, a lot of governments too, for defending against foreign interference. This Monday, we announced that we had proactively identified a network of fake Russian accounts and a few networks of Iranian fake accounts that we proactively took down, which certainly, as you say, signals that these nation states are still attempting to interfere, but I hope will also give us some confidence that our systems are now more sophisticated to proactively identify and address these things. On your question about political ads, look, from a business perspective, the very small percent of our business that is made up of political ads does not come anywhere close to justifying the controversy that this incurs for our company. So this really is not about money. This is, on principle, I believe in giving people a voice. I believe that ads can be an important part of voice. I think especially in the political process for challenger candidates and for local candidates or advocates whose message might not otherwise be covered by the media. Having ads can be an important way to inject your message into the political debate.
Let me interrupt you for a minute. Are you telling me, I think as you said to me before, you plan on doing no fact-checking on political ads?
Chairwoman, our policy is that we do not fact-check politicians' speech, and the reason for that is that we believe that in a democracy, it is important that people can see for themselves what politicians are saying. Political speech is some of the most scrutinized speech already in the world.
Do you fact check on any ads at all?
Yes.
Describe what you fact check on.
Well, Chairwoman, actually, thank you for the opportunity to clarify. Facebook itself actually does not fact check. What we do is we have feedback that people in our community don't want to see viral hoaxes or kind of
so
widespread.
let me be clear. You do no fact-checking on any ads. Is that correct?
Chairwoman, what we do is we work with a set of independent fact-checkers who...
Somebody fact-checks on ads. You contract with someone to do that. Is that right?
Chairwoman, yes.
And tell me, who is it that they fact-checked on?
Chairwoman, what we do is when content is getting a lot of distribution and is flagged by members of our community or by our technical systems, it can go into a queue to be reviewed by a set of independent fact-checkers. They can't fact-check everything, but the things that they get to, and if they mark something as false, then we...
All right, my time has expired, and someone else will continue on this line of questioning. And I now call on the gentleman from North Carolina, the ranking member, Mr. McHenry, to be recognized for 5 minutes.
So as I mentioned in my opening statement, I think there are bigger challenges and opportunities facing America than your ad model, or even the question of Libra. So let's start with your speech last week. Have you changed your view in terms of technology and China from before your speech on Friday to what we read and heard from your speech on Friday?
Congressman, no, I have not changed my views in the last week.
10 years ago versus today on your view of China and technology versus your speech on Friday.
Congressman, I think it's fair to say that my views have evolved. I probably 10 years ago would have been more optimistic that trying to work in China could have contributed to making a more open society. And today it seems that in some cases working in China not only does not do that, but compromises American companies' ability to promote our values abroad and around the world. And I think we've seen that in the last few weeks in a number of cases.
So you mentioned in your speech, you said a decade ago, 10 of 10 of the top companies on the internet were American. Now 6 of 10 are Chinese. So the question I have for you is, why are we seeing emerging technologies driven by blockchain projects and digital currencies being developed elsewhere, such as the case of Libra?
Well, Congressman, we have a lot of competition around the world. And you're right that over the last decade, pretty much all of the major internet platforms have been American companies with strong free expression values, and I just think that there's no guarantee that that is the state of the world going forward. Today, 6 of the top 10 companies are coming out of China, and certainly do not share our values on things like expression.
So on that, why Switzerland for Libra? Why not the United States?
So the Libra Association is an independent association. We're trying to set up a global payment system. Switzerland is where a lot of the international organizations are. It also,
is there greater regulatory certainty in Switzerland than here in the United States for this type of technology?
I think Switzerland has certainly been forward-leaning on wanting to work through systems like this. But I don't want this to come across as if...
And the United States is not.
Well, Congressman, one of the things that I just want to be clear on is that the Independent Libra Association it's independent. We're a part of it. We helped stand it up. We don't control it. But I just want to make sure it's 100% clear to everyone today that my commitment running Facebook is that we're not going to launch anything that is a product or a part of this until we have full support from U.S. regulators, regardless of what the international regulators.
The project of Libra internally, before you handed this technology, this idea over to the association. Let's think of this. Why would you have a project like that? Is it about competition with your peers globally? Is that a component?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
So you have no payments platform on Facebook. Facebook is not a payments platform. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So in seeking to develop a payments platform internally, before you handed the technology over to the association for Libra, was that because of examples globally of competitors creating payments platforms?
Congressman, it was partially that, and it's partially because I view the financial infrastructure in the United States as outdated. So there are 2 sets of work that we do on payments. One is building payment systems that allow people to send money on top of the existing financial system that exists. That work is relatively less controversial. We're doing it around the world in different countries on top of existing payment systems. There's another set of work, which is what we're trying to do with Libra, which is trying to help rethink what a modern infrastructure for the financial system would be if you started it today rather than 50 years ago on a lot of outdated systems. I mean, I just look at the fact that you can send a text message to someone around the world.
Okay, but let me just drill down on this. Alipay has 900 million users. That is a global competitor, in my view, to Facebook. You see Alipay and WeChat Pay working. Why not just do a Facebook version of Alipay in order to level this?
Congressman, I think you're right that they're certainly competing not just with us, but all of the American companies on this. Part of the infrastructure that they're building on is a lot more modern than some of what we would have to build on here. As soon as we put forward the white paper around the Libra project, China immediately announced a public-private partnership working with companies like that to extend the work that they had already done with Alipay into a digital renminbi as part of the Belt and Road Initiative that they have. And they're planning on launching that in the next few months.
Thank you.
The gentlewoman from New York, Mrs. Maloney, who is also the chair for the Subcommittee on Investor Protection, Entrepreneurship, and Capital Markets, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Zuckerberg, you said, and on page 3 of your testimony, that Facebook will not be part of launching Libra anywhere in the world until all the U.S. regulators approve. So which U.S. regulators are you talking about? There are actually many financial regulators, such as the Fed, the FDIC, the OCC, the SEC, the CFTC, the CFPB, FinCEN, FHFA, and many, many more. And to be clear, Libra would affect all of those regulators. So which of those regulators do you believe need to approve Libra before you will support the launch? And what kind of approval do you believe is necessary? Do you need to see written approval from each regulator? Will those approvals be public?
Congresswoman, thanks for the question. My understanding is probably all of them. for different things. Different of these regulators focus on different areas, whether it's financial stability or fighting crimes and fraud and terrorism. Different areas of the work need to get done and are overseen by different regulators. I think the processes with each of them might be a little bit different, but we're committed to getting all of the appropriate U.S. approvals before launching the Libra payment system in any country in the world, even where those approvals might not be strictly required.
Just to be clear, will you commit to waiting until you get approval from every U.S. regulator that Libra affects before you'll support launching Libra? Yes or no?
Congresswoman, all of the regulators that have jurisdiction over a part of what we're doing, we are working with them and we'll seek approval from.
Okay. A bill of mine passed the House yesterday, which would crack down on anonymous shell companies in the United States, which has become a nightmare for law enforcement. They are the perfect vehicle for laundering money and for financing and criminal activity. Now, with the creation of various digital currencies, we face a new challenge with financial transactions being anonymous. That's why I am concerned that the use of anonymous wallets would make Libra attractive to those that are looking to launder money. It's my understanding that Libra wallet won't be anonymous, but I haven't heard anything about competing wallets. So will you commit not to supporting any other anonymous wallets for Libra? I consider this a national security issue.
Congresswoman, thank you for this question. I think it builds on a question that the chairwoman was asking before as well about our position on cryptocurrencies overall. We see a range of different cryptocurrency projects out there, from completely decentralized and deregulated things to what we're trying to do is trying to build a safe and secure and regulated alternative. We think that the digital payment space needs that. Of course, as a big company, we're not going to do something that's unregulated or decentralized. We're going to work with the government to build something that gets to the same standard on anti-money laundering and CFT that all of the other world-class payment systems have, or exceed those standards. Sorry, I forgot the actual question. But
yeah.
I was caught up in answering the chairwoman's question.
Well, I don't think you have. You can have strong anti-money laundering controls and anonymous wallets.
Right.
So I see this as a new loophole for criminals looking to hide and launder money. So what is your position on anonymous wallets? Will you commit that you won't have anonymous wallets, that it be transparent? Otherwise, we'll face the problems that we have with the LLCs, where they are hiding trafficking money, terrorism financing, criminal activity of all kinds. It's a huge problem for safety for Americans, and it's a huge problem for law enforcement. This is their number one concern, was this bill we passed yesterday with bipartisan support, but you're creating a whole new currency that could potentially be anonymous and could hide all types of criminal activity, which is a huge concern to the safety of Americans and national security.
Yes, Congresswoman, I will commit that Facebook will do what you are saying. Our version of this, our wallet is going to have strong identity, is going to work with all the regulators to make sure that we are at the standard of AML and CFT that people expect or exceed it. I can't sit here and speak for the whole Independent Libra Association, but you have my commitment from Facebook.
Thank you very much, and I yield back.
The gentleman from Missouri, the gentlewoman from Missouri, Mrs. Wagner, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you, Mr. Zuckerberg, for being here. When Libra was announced, 28 companies joined as founding members by signing a non-binding letter of intent to join the association. But in recent weeks, many of these founding members have dropped out of the association. Perhaps they're not so sure it's going to work either. PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, Stripe, Bookings Holdings, eBay, and Mercado Pago you've lost these stable partners, I would say, and I find it highly concerning. Very briefly, what do you make of these sudden departures from the association, and why do a number of these founding members have concerns that whether you're up to the task of meeting our money laundering and regulatory standards?
Congresswoman, thanks for the question. And this project is too big for any one company to do on its own, which is why we set up this independent Libra association with a number of other companies and nonprofits. It's a very complex project, and as you say, it's risky.
Why have they departed? I just wrote scores of stable partners have dropped out. Why?
Well, Congresswoman, I think you'd have to ask them specifically for.
Why do you think they dropped out?
I think because it's a risky project, and I think that there's been a lot of scrutiny.
Yes, it's a risky project. So let me move on to something that's near and dear to my heart. As you may know, I wrote and passed H.R. 1865, the Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act, widely known as FOSTA-SESTA. I am committed to rooting out online sex trafficking and believe that what is illegal offline should indeed be illegal online. 3 weeks ago, the New York Times ran a report titled, "The Internet is Overrun with Images of Child Sex Abuse." And I'd like this submitted for the record.
Without objection, such is the order.
16.8 million, as confirmed by the Department of Justice, of the 18.4 million worldwide reports of child sexual abuse material are on Facebook. 16.8 of the 18.4 million. These 18.4 million reports from last year included a record 45 million photos and videos. These are absolutely shocking numbers. Moreover, it's estimated that 70% of Facebook's valuable reporting to NCMEC, the National Center on Missing and Exploited Children, would be lost if Facebook implements its end-to-end encryption proposal. Mr. Zuckerberg, how much is this figure growing year after year? And if you enact end-to-end encryption, what will become of the children who will be harmed as a result that they're not reported?
Congresswoman, thanks. Child exploitation is one of the most serious threats that we focus on.
What is Facebook doing? 16.8 of the 18.4 million.
Well, Congresswoman, the reason those reports come from Facebook, the reason why the vast majority come from Facebook is because I think we work harder than any other company to identify this behavior and report it to NCMEC
are you doing to shut this down? These accounts peddle horrific illegal content that exploits women and children. What are you doing, Mr. Zuckerberg, to shut this down?
Well, Congresswoman, we build sophisticated systems to find this behavior.
16.8 million and growing of the 18.4 images?
Well, Congresswoman, I don't think Facebook is the only place on the internet where this behavior is happening. I think the fact that the vast majority of those reports come from us reflects the fact that we actually do a better job than everyone else of finding it and acting on it. And you're right that in an end-to-end encrypted world, one of the risks that I'm worried about, among others, to safety, is that it will be harder to find some of this behavior.
But you have said you want end-to-end encryption. What's going to happen of these children? They won't be reported then. And you are responsible. Facebook is responsible for 16.8 million of the 18.4 that are out there last year alone.
Again, I believe that there are probably a lot more than 18 million out there, and I think we're doing a good job of finding this. But I think you're right that
what are you going to do to shut it down, Mr. Zuckerberg?
We're working with law enforcement and building technical systems to identify.
Well, you're not working hard enough, sir. And end-to-end encryption is not going to help the reporting process. I'm over my time. I have many more questions for you that I'll submit for the record, but we're going to talk about this, and I yield back. Thank you.
The gentlewoman from New York, Ms. Velasquez, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Zuckerberg, Calibra has pledged it will not share account information or financial data with Facebook or any third party without customer consent. However, Facebook has had a history of problems safeguarding users' data. In July, Facebook was forced to pay a $5 billion fine to the FTC, by far the largest penalty ever imposed to a company for violating consumers' privacy rights as part of a settlement related to the 2018 Cambridge Analytica scandal. So let me start off by asking you a very simple question. Why should we believe what you and Calibra are saying about protecting customer privacy and financial data?
Well, Congresswoman, I think that this is an important question for us on all of the news services that we build. We certainly have work to do to build trust. I think that the settlement and order that we entered into with the FTC will help us set a new standard for our industry in terms of the rigor for the privacy program that we're building. We're now basically building out a privacy program for people's data that is parallel to what the Sarbanes-Oxley requirements would be for a public company on people's financial data. In terms of audits internally, any manager who's overseeing a team that handles people's data has to certify quarterly that they're meeting their commitments, and that goes all the way up to me, and I'll have to certify that on.
Thank you for your answer. It has been publicly reported that when you acquire WhatsApp, Facebook officials coached the company's founder to tell European Union regulators that it will be, and I quote, really difficult to merge or blend data between Facebook and WhatsApp, and that there was no desire to integrate the two systems. Mr. Zuckerberg, 18 months later, the platforms were linked. The European Union fined Facebook for providing incorrect or misleading information. So let me ask you, do you understand why this record makes us concerned with Facebook entering the cryptocurrency space? Do you realize that you and Facebook have a credibility issue here?
Congresswoman, I understand that we have work to build trust on this, and that means making commitments, and even if we learn new things in the future that could change our mind on how we should operate, that I think we're going to need to make sure that the commitments that we make.
Have you learned that you should not lie?
Congresswoman, I would disagree with the characterization
Well,
that was lying.
you say you went to the European regulators and you said that it will not link. It will not, that it will be impossible. And yet, 18 months later, it happened. And you were fined for that.
Congresswoman,
so let's continue. I hope that you learned something about that, about not lying. Facebook internal motto was, for a long time, move fast and break things. Mr. Zuckerberg, we do not want to break the international monetary system. Last week, the G7 released a report stating that global stablecoins could have significant adverse effects, both domestically and internationally, on the transmission of monetary policy as well as financial stability. Given the G7's concerns and the concerns voiced by us here today, would you commit to a moratorium on launching Libra until Congress can develop, not the regulators? You said before that you will not move until all the regulators sign into and support for you to move forward. Here, Congress, the People's House, needs to have the opportunity to work on a legal framework so that we provide the guidance to the regulators. Would you commit to that, yes or no?
Congresswoman, my understanding is that Congress exercises significant oversight over the regulators through these committees. So that would seem to me like the appropriate way for that to happen.
So that is a no. Thank you.